What's up, everybody? My name is Bryce Koon. We welcome you back here on a Sunday evening, a little bit later than initially anticipated. And look, we it means Ralph Leary in the background. It means that we lost somebody tonight, and that's Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob has gone to bed. Ralph, were you aware of that? We'll bring you in here, Ralph. Were you aware?
Yeah, I saw the Discord earlier that he was going to bed. I still haven't figured out how old he is, so I'm assuming over 30 now.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, we're not giving you any thoughts on Argentinian geopolitics, probably because I don't know what in the world that means, but that's okay, right?
Oh wait, hold on.
He's here.
Well, I almost say one thing before I leave. We're not going to disrespect him at all. You're not calling him old. He is the intern.
The forever intern.
Exactly.
Ralph from A Christmas Story? That's what Ramblin' Rick wants to know.
I'll shoot your eye out.
If you're listening in on the podcast, you have no idea what's going on. But hey, Ralph, appreciate you, brother. Ralph Leary in the background. My name's Bryce Koon. Thanks so much for tuning in as we talk Georgia Tech against Syracuse. And ladies and gentlemen, this was a game that really, really went, in my opinion, a game that we on Thursday night when we talked about this, it's a matchup that was kind of one of those want-to matchups. You know, Syracuse was a team that walked into this really kind of limping offensively. You really didn't know what you were going to get. Yes, they had set some records, 329 rushing yards the week before. Yes, they had done a lot of different things. Georgia Tech doesn't tackle well. Georgia Tech doesn't play the run well. It's a bad defense. Yeah, we hear all those things. But this was a 1-2 game. This was one of those matchups where you kind of sat there and said, and Ralph, if we get to the game recap here, it's one of those things we kind of just talk about. Georgia Tech made the plays when they needed to. And this game overall, I want to take you back through. Make sure to get in the comments to your questions, comments, concerns in this football game, your thoughts. You go back to the first half. Georgia Tech allowed just 94 total yards. Now, look, Syracuse, the use of Garrett Schrader, the no use of Garrett Schrader, all of these things that kind of you thought coming into the game would be something that you could kind of pin your hat on as, well, because Syracuse is going to do this well. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to be physical. I mean, Georgia Tech left that first half averaging just 94 yards. Or, I'm sorry, giving up a total of 94 yards. They gave up an average of 3.3 on the ground. I think for a team that we've seen over the course of a season where, honestly, offenses have been able to kind of make publicly what they want to do, and Georgia Tech defensively has allowed teams to say, well, this is what we want to do in a football game. But one of the biggest things is that in this game, where Syracuse said, we want to run the football. We want to be physical. That's going to be our mantra going into this football game, and we want that to be our identity inside Bobby Dodd. You look at the stats of that first half, 63 rushing yards, averaging 3.3 yards per carry, just 31 passing yards, 6 penalties, 0 for 5 on third downs. Like, give credit to Georgia Tech's defense in this football game and their ability to not only kind of thwart away any speculation of this could be a long night. No, we're going to get to that second half. It's a tale of two halves with this team. But defensively in that first half, you knew what Syracuse wanted to do. You knew what you wanted to do. And even though everybody in the building kind of had an idea of what they thought might happen, Syracuse's ground game, the ground and pound of what Dino Babers wanted to run, using a tight end as quarterback, running some option plays, all of these things that we're sitting here talking about tonight, Georgia Tech answered the bell. I mean, you have to be super, super happy with the first half performance. And it took us into halftime. Score was 17-3. And so, offensively, you had 205 yards. You were averaging 4.8 yards a carry. Haynes King, obviously had the turnover. But at that point in the game, you were feeling good. You were trending well. And it really kind of goes from there as you get into the second half. And it's been something that we've kind of seen. I want to get some of your thoughts on this. Is it more of taking the foot off the gas pedal, becoming complacent? Is it a combination of the evolution of the play calling? And I see Dr. Bob's got a question in here and a comment in there. We'll go ahead and start that one, and we'll talk about that one here in a second. But it's all of the different things that have kind of plagued this team, and they get into this lull. And that happened in the third quarter. You go through the third quarter, Going back to that, Georgia Tech had, screen's over here, 95 total yards. Syracuse had 97, 7 first downs, but they just really, they weren't able to necessarily inspire the confidence, I think, that you would want a team to when they're up 17-3 at halftime. Because you want your team to kind of have the foot on the neck approach, foot on the gas pedal, to have that killer instinct that a guy like Brent Key has preached so much throughout his tenure at Georgia Tech, and wanting this team to kind of evolve into that identity. And they didn't have that, and so I think that can be something where, and look, we're going to talk about this tonight. You separate the 30,000 foot view from what we're dealing with on a week-to-week basis. 30,000 foot view, this team still has a lot of work to go, but within the game, you're in a bowl game. And when we sat back and we did a preview of the whole season back in, I guess that was late July, early August, right before fall camp broke, you can honestly sit there and say to yourself, man, 6 wins in a bowl game is a pretty good one. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, yeah, there's things to work on, but you did achieve a goal. So that being said, let's take it to the second half. Nearly identical yardage totals, 165 for Syracuse, 167 for Georgia Tech. Penalty-wise, you saw a tad bit of an increase, but look, credit to the Georgia Tech team, just 3 penalties for 35 yards, which I think is really, really shows discipline and shows, we've talked about this multiple times each and every single week, it shows a blueprint. You don't have to play crazy out of control to win a football game, probably like you did against Wake Forest earlier this year. You don't have to have some inexcusable coaching blunder like you did in Miami to win a football game. You can win a football game by playing for a full 60 minutes, like Brent Key has talked about. You can win a football game by not relenting in the way that your effort is going. We're talking about some key plays in this game. But you can win a football game by maintaining composure, maintaining control of what you want to do, and overall just playing solid fundamental football. And I thought that they did that. The second half wasn't splashy. Syracuse scored 19 points. Georgia Tech scored 14. Georgia Tech wins the football game. We all know that. But it's just one of those things where you started to see some of the second half woes that have doomed this team in this program in the past 4 or 5 years. It turned out to be a resilient bunch. And I think that is a testament to where the mentality of this team is. And so I take you back to this. We're going to move into the next segment just here in a second, Ralph. But when you look and you see what this program has evolved from, a team that would have spurts, and they would have, spots in the game where, man, they look like they can compete at an all ACC level, or they can go out and play with some teams. And then they regress and they have boneheaded blunders that make you question, and it's just a consistency issue. This is a win that you can build off of, but this is a win that shows the growth. I hate to use the quote that a lot of the fans hate from a previous head coach, but if you don't want to see the growth, I guess you just don't see it, or you're not wanting to. There is real growth here. This is a sign of, starting off fast, having that lull, but not letting it define you over the course of the third and the fourth quarter. And I think that's something that's absolutely massive when you build a program, because you still have a long ways to go. Look, they're going to get in the offseason. They're going to address needs through the high school ranks, address needs maybe through the coaching staff hires, and address needs through the transfer portal. But I think one of the biggest things, and Ralph, I'm going to pull this quote up from our good friend Maxwell. He says that quote is actually applicable now, though, 110%. It is. There is real, tangible growth and growing pains that you're seeing with this group. And so I really, really like where this trajectory is going. Now, we're going to talk about the game this weekend that you get at home, and I think is going to obviously, everyone knows what's ahead of you. The good and the now is everyone have fun because you're going bowling, whether it's the Pinstripe Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, Birmingham Bowl, Duke's Mayo Bowl, wherever it may be. You're going bowling. That's a big accomplishment that you needed. And we talked about last Thursday why I thought, and a lot of you kind of agreed and some disagreed, and that's fine, why I do believe that this game was probably the most impactful to this date of the Brent Key era. I don't think that's 110%, absolutely crazy. I think that we're seeing something where this team is able to build and do what they want to do. So I'm really excited about that. Ralph, let's get to the big key point here. And before we do, Ralph, throw up the big graphic. You need to make sure Tech just made more plays. And if you want to make some big plays before the holidays, you got to check out Section 103, some of the most sought after Georgia Tech gear. You got St. John Days right there. You got a couple of Georgia Tech legends rocking it. Look, ATL and the Waffle House. You use code Crowded Booth for 10% off your order today. Look, they've got Dry Fit. They've got the Tech logo. And my favorite logo right there, the ATL logo that you can be a part of. So make sure you check out Section 103, exclusive gear, the best of the market there for Georgia Tech fans, and use code Crowded Booth for 10% off your order. Let them know we sent you. And shout out to the folks over at Section 103, honored as I think it was top 40 under 40, Ralph. So what they're doing over there in Atlanta, very, very big moves over there for the folks over there at Section 103. So we talk now, Ralph. You throw it back up there, my friend. They just made more plays. I talked about this on Thursday, and I really, really felt this way about it, that this game was going to be knock down, drag out, physical game of football that you were going to have to turn around and really kind of gut check who you were. The numbers, the top 10 offense, the bottom 120, defense, all of these things. Push comes to shove. Night game inside what was a really, really fantastic atmosphere. All of these things. Do you want it? And led by Haynes King, it definitely wasn't the prettiest game from Haynes King that we've seen. I wouldn't say it's the cleanest game, and I think he's a good evaluator of his own self. He's shown that at times this season. But 16 to 20, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. He runs for another 82 yards and 11 carries, a long of 19, and the 1 touchdown. I mean, I just think, guys, when you look at this, you have to be excited. That 19-yard touchdown run, that is an example of this team coming into their own. And a guy that is, for better or worse, he is what Brent Key wants at the quarterback position. Not only in the physical capabilities that give credit to Buster Faulkner and Chris Winkie, that they've put him in positions to succeed, but also in the mental fortitude. And I think this is something that we don't really talk about a lot, and because no one wants to talk about, mental immaturity or things like that. What we can talk about is that Haynes King has, and I've mentioned this, he has that factor of when he's dialed in. I don't know, and I know this could be a biased take, I don't know if there's too many other quarterbacks. There might not be 15 other quarterbacks that you want playing for you when he's dialed in. Ralph, am I crazy for saying that? Like when King is rolling, the way he's carried this offense at times, I think it's going to be huge. And Dr. Bob, we got some great comments, Ralph. Make sure you're just starring everything you see. We'll get to those at the end of the show. But you go back to the 19-yard rush. I mean, we look at that drive, and you just kind of start to get the feeling, for this group that they were going to find a way to make it happen. You had high-effort plays across the board, both offensively and defensively. I stand on this. Number 44, Kyle Eford, has to be on the football field on Saturday and wherever you're playing your bowl game. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I don't care about seniority. I don't care about someone being a better fit. The intangibles and the way this kid plays the game, he has to be on the field. He's got to be on the field over number 13. He's got to be on the field possibly over number 7. Number 4 played well. We're referring to him now, obviously, as numbers. We're not going to say the names. Number 4 played well. I think, number 3 showed some signs, especially that goal line stand there for the 2-point conversion. But as you kind of take a look at this program is not in a spot where they can roll the ball out and beat people. Like we learned that after Bowling Green. They're just not that. And I saw the quote from somebody over at 24/7, Ralph. They said Auburn's in the same boat. Like some teams right now are not in the spot where they can just roll the football out there on the field and say, yeah, we're going to win today. Georgia Tech's not in that spot. It's got to be a high effort, 110% energy for a full 60 minutes to win a football game. Maybe they get there one day, but as of right now, they're not that. And so there's a lot of, I think, criticisms, and that's fine. Like, that we're going to talk about critics and criticisms and, some advice that we think, not that we should be given, but just all of those things. But this team has to fight battle. There are talent gaps. There are deficiencies on this roster and, growing and learning players and growing and learning coaches. But when it came down to it, Tech made the more plays. The the goal to go on the 2-point conversion or the 2-point conversion play in general. Andre White filling that gap. Like that is, I just don't even think we understand how much of a instinct play that is with things that you have to do. I absolutely loved, the tenacity, the effort, and then you see it come to fruition after the game because the guys spent 60 plus minutes. It felt like a 10 of energy to go win a football game. They didn't get down when the game felt like it could be slipping from their grasp when they blew the lead. Yeah, they blew the lead. And yeah, we can sit there and we can be frustrated about that. But at the end of the day, that's something that you'd much rather correct next week in practice or in the off season or in the film room whenever you get there and do it with a W beside the game instead of an L. So I absolutely love the fact that this team just made more plays. Like they just went out there and said, whatever it takes, we're going to make more plays to win this football game. And honestly, you have to like the way they did that. We take a look at some of the defining stats. I mean, I talked about discipline. You made more plays without playing outside of yourself. 3 penalties, 35 yards. Syracuse, 12 penalties for 84 yards in this football game. Possession time, just about even. Fumbles, you had 1 fumble, you lost it. You forced 2, you recovered 1 on Syracuse side of things. But folks, the things that have plagued this defense, and you can sit there and say, well, Syracuse is not good. Syracuse is not good. Look, they had a chance to win the football game. You kept a 1 of 9 on 3rd down. Like there's a lot of positive things that can take that. I just really, really liked the way they played this game. High effort, high energy. And I think it all comes down to from the top. Like Brent Key has a ways to go as a head coach. He has a ways to go in learning how to manage a roster, learning how to manage a program, learning how to manage the day-to-day interactions that a CEO of a program has to do. And that's fine. The guy's a first-year head coach. I mean, that was expected, at least by the not the casuals, the realist of the group. That was expected. So you're going to see, the dial just ping back and forth constantly with inconsistencies. You're going to see the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But when you get into this situation where you get towards the end of the year and push comes to shove, I mean, the rubber hits the road right here, and you got to win this football game because you know what is sitting a week from you there in Bobby Dodd, and you went out and found a way. Kudos to Brent Key and the staff. Kudos to adjustments, whatever it was. I just really think Tech fans should be proud of the way these guys have fought through an up and down season because Tech fans, college football fans, I mean, Ralph can attest to this. We've all watched teams growing up that rode this roller coaster and then weeks 12, 13, and 14 completely just imploded. Credit Georgia Tech. They did. It would have been very easy for them to come back home and just lay down. And they didn't do it. So I think that is absolutely a testament to the mental fortitude and the maturity of this team. We're seeing that grow. And I think it's on a nice trajectory, continue to go forward. Yeah, there's schematic things we can take a look at. Look, we know this defense hasn't played up to par. We know things, the Jimmies and Joes need to be upgraded, all of those things. And that's a conversation that we're going to have in a couple of weeks as the transfer portal opens. But I think that the growth that we've seen out of several aspects of this roster, several aspects of this program, very, very encouraging. Very, very encouraging. Hey, I appreciate you all so much for watching. We're going to get to a couple of your questions here before we get to what's next. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. 37% of them, Ralph, are not even subscribed. So, I mean, it's like it doesn't even cost you anything. If you want Ralph to eat, if you want Ralph to get out of the basement, Ralph, would you like something to eat tomorrow? He might. We'll see. If you want Ralph to get out of the basement, you've got to hit that subscribe button. It helps us in the algorithm. We appreciate it. Make sure to like the video as well. All right, Ralph, let's get to the final component of tonight's show where we talk about what is next. And see my man Maxwell right there. He says hashtag free Ralph. Get it trending. Apparently we did him dirty. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So what's next for Georgia Tech? Look, we're going to talk about this game later in the week. Clean old-fashioned hate. You know what it is, 20-something straight games. They can break a record for most consecutive wins, I believe, if they beat you on Saturday. I mean, there's a lot of things when you kind of look at this game. It's David against Goliath. And we're not going to sit here and we're not going to talk about it. I believe Georgia opened up as a 23-point favorite. Ralph, how do you feel about it? You hammering that in right now? Where do you feel about that? 23-point favorite. How do you feel? All right. I like it. He says hammer it. Ralph says, I got my PTO revoked, but Will kept his. Yeah, Will's nowhere near. It is what it is. Ralph kind of looks like Brennan Fraser. Oh my gosh, Montega. That's wild. And we got to go. It's giving time of the year. Smash the like button. Let's get a couple of these, Ralph. I got them. And then Dr. Bob says it's the giving time of the year. Don't be a Scrooge. Throw a like, comment, subscribe to the feed to feed Tiny Ralph. All right. So what's next for Georgia Tech? You're going to get a bowl game, and you're going to get to play meaningful football in the month of December, which I told you on Thursday. It does two things. It gets you 14 to 17 extra practices that are going to be paramount for the development of your roster. If you don't think so, ask any coach in America. That is why, if you're not, that's why we have to stop acting like the college football playoff is the only thing that matters. Bowl games matter for that very reason. It's a chance to continue to evaluate, especially through the portal opening, because other than that, you don't really have anything. Georgia Tech gets to do that. The second part, some kid in Ralph, give me a city. Where are we going? Where are we going? We went to Cordele last week. Where should I go? I'll go to Perry. We're going to Perry. Some kid in Perry, Georgia, that might have a Georgia Tech offer and is thinking, I don't know if I want to go there. Then he sees him playing a bowl game. He sees the brand, and it starts to grow. It's huge. It's really, really huge. Maxwell said Cumming, Georgia. Great city. Forsyth County. Absolutely love it. All of that being said, it's a meaningful opportunity to play in a bowl game. And if you get a good opponent, too, an SEC level opponent, we've seen some predictions go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte against Kentucky. That would be a big win, an absolutely big win. I think altogether, when you put this together, what's next for Georgia Tech? You go, you play 60 minutes against Georgia, whatever happens, happens. There's going to be a time and a place and a date in the future where you can sit there and say to yourself, now we feel like we're ready. I'll tell you right now, we're going to get into a preview of it. I don't think you're ready. You don't have the Jimmies and Joes. They execute at such a high level. There is a reason they're number one in the country. Ralph, we're not going to Unadilla. We're not doing that ourselves. You might go there this week. Who knows? Rockledge, Georgia. Vince Wilkes saying Rockledge, Georgia. There might be going back to what we were saying, there might be a day in the future where you can sit there and say to yourself, we're getting closer. Rockmart, the city of Rockmart. Got a tidbit on Rockmart, Ralph, before we get out of here tonight. This week to me is not that week. And that's okay. You're going to want to beat them. I understand it. I get it. 110% full-fledged. You want to win that football game. Fact of the matter is, you're just not there yet. It's going to take some things, but you go out there and play full 60. But man, if you're 6-6 and you go win a bowl game 7-6, I think it really kind of opens some of the floodgates of what you're able to do as a program. We got Sunnyside, Georgia, Warner Robins, go Demons, Cumberland Island, Americus from a man, Chad. Charlotte, Birmingham, New York, preferred over Boston, New York. Yeah, we'll get a couple of those. Ralph, keep starring those. We'll get those comments in before we get out. That's where I sit with this. You'll get 7-6. Maybe you get 8-5. Who knows? College football gods have done crazier things. I will tell you this, and Ralph, I don't know how you feel about this. It wouldn't be as crazy of an upset as I think people might think it is if they did it. Because I don't think it would be crazy. It just wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be App State, Michigan. And I think a lot of people, Ravenlet Clips, we're going to get there, man. Where you been? Subscribe to the channel. We'll get you on there. That's where we're going with that. I don't know, man. We're not even going to touch that. We'll touch that on Thursday. What's next for Georgia Tech? You get to this weekend, you fight for 60 minutes, you get to a bowl game, you win your bowl game, and you build some momentum into year 2 under Brent Key. Nearly 100 people live watching, and we appreciate you, Ralph. Let's get to a couple of the comments and the questions we got going on here tonight before we wrap it up and get it out of here. Brennan Simpkins says, do y'all think we will be playing Auburn? Actually, Brennan was able to talk with some bowl reps. Auburn might have played their way out of a Florida bowl game. Because of that loss to New Mexico State, it's looking more and more likely like there could have been a matchup in the Gator Bowl between Tech and Auburn. And I think Auburn has, lack of better words for our good friend Will Mannis, co-host of the Crowded Booth College Football Show, they have demoted themselves voluntarily after the fight. And what's the head coach's name over there, Ralph? I can't think of it. We'll get it later. That being said, Ralph, let's get to the next couple comments here before we get out of here for the night. I'm going to start a couple. Here we go. My man CDawg18. I thought we used the middle of the field a bit more on the passes. Yeah, and look, that's something a lot of people, and we might get some comments in here. I think Haynes King has been zeroing in on Eric Singleton Jr. On one hand, you ask yourself, why not? The kid's been a freshman phenom. On the other hand, you got to have some diversity in who you're passing the ball to. You want to see the bounce. You want to see one guy with 8 catches, but then you want to see like 5, 4, 4, 3, 2. You don't want to see 12, 2, 3, 0, 0, 0, 0 in the catches department. You don't want to see that. All right, let's keep it rolling here through the comments, Ralph, as we end tonight's show. Got to get in before that 30-minute mark. Play calling by Buster was frustrating in the third quarter. That last drive showed the growth, maturity opposite of the Louisville game. Dr. Bob, perfect point. Hope you get a good sleep tonight. Play calling was frustrating. We saw some things we may have seen in that third quarter against Louisville, but the way that they evolved shows you the evolution of this team from game 1 to game 12. I think that's the biggest thing, or game 11, I should say. Jerry Kill. All right, let's keep rolling. A couple more comments, Ralph. I think we got 16 left in the chamber. We're going to fire out here. Montega, we'll just roll through them, Ralph, as I read them. Game plan or not, Dino's decision. I almost said Dinos. Dino's decision to stick with that offense cost him his job. Silly Pop Warner offense. Yeah, I don't even know, too, like what they're. I think a question, if you're a Syracuse fan, has to be to yourself. And I don't know how many Syracuse fans there are, honestly. But I think it has to be to yourself, like, what is the deal with that? I don't know. Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, keep it rolling. Get through it here. Dan Villari for Syracuse was a QB recruit originally. He was Michigan's quarterback in the class between Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Dr. Bob with his fun fact of the evening. Maxwell says, this win and getting bowl eligible gave me the confidence that Key can take the program back to relevance, maybe even some pretty big highs. Not that he will per se, but that he can. Maxwell, I think it's an absolutely perfect way to, as we get close to the end of the season, is back to relevancy. You want to be relevant. That's what the goal was. It's baby steps. Very few programs, and I'll tell you this, can make a 180 in the span of a year. Georgia Tech to make a 180, but they made positive steps. And I don't think they're a program that can necessarily do that, but it's very interesting as well. Mackenzie says, your dad says hello. They're watching in the living room. That's absolutely fantastic. Ramblin' Rick says, interesting. Ralph says hello to Ralph. You want to wave at him? I got you right here, buddy. Ralph waves. Interesting. We figured Tech would win 6, maybe 7, but not those 6 games. Yeah, Ramblin', the way that they got to 6, if you put money on that, I don't know. What Mackenzie's just saying. Yeah, Vince says, hello, Dad. Mackenzie says, do you think Tech will wear the blue jerseys? Hey, folks in the chat, this is my sister, so be careful with it. Let her know what you think about the blue jerseys, because some of them can't stand it. Ralph says no. All right, Ralph, let's run through the rest of these questions so people don't have time to answer. King and Buster will have another offseason together to try to iron out some of the kinks. Yeah, I think it's going to be very good. As bad as the linebacker play has been at times, we have a piece building around going forward. Need to hold on to Taj Butler out of NOLA. News on Taj Butler. He is going to apparently, and we're going to confirm this week, he's deciding whether to go on campus up to Atlanta for clean old-fashioned hate or down here in Baton Rouge for LSU, Texas A&M. That could scream a lot. He does not hold that LSU offer, but as a lot of you folks know, for an in-state kid down here to get the offer from the purple and gold, it's going to be very, very interesting. All right, let's go. Hard prediction, GT will score more points on UGA than Tennessee did. Tennessee scored what, Ralph? 10? 38-10 final? Wow. Very interesting. Be interesting. All right, keep it going here. This season is perfect. What's up, my man, Matt? For Key to grow as a head coach and Buster as an OC. Yeah, agreed. You're going to take the lumps. You're going to take the growing pains. You got to keep moving. 57 more seconds here on the program. How much do you think Tech has improved? Ramblin', we are going to have a show. We might, I don't know when we're going to do it. We're going to do it the week after the regular season. And we're going to talk about that overall. But I think from last year to this year, great. Starting to find the identity, and I really, really like it. Maxwell similarly wants to know how much Tech has improved. He does. Fair enough. We all do. Nate D says Charlotte Birmingham Bowl preferred over Boston, New York would be fantastic. I agree. Fans being able to get there would be very, very interesting. Trevor Jones says bowl game is more money for the program. Yes. 20 seconds, Ralph, on the clock. This next week is a chance to compete. Like last year, closer than expected game would put us in a good light. Agreed. I'm with you there. Did you notice anything different from this game versus the previous ones? Yes. Offense was able to get going early on, and when this offense does, it's really, really big. We've got about 30 more seconds. What's your opinion on why Buster keeps trying those god-awful wide receiver screens, trying to find something to get the offense going? Mackenzie goes, do you think Tech will win the 90 in 2024? Absolutely no. Hammer it. Mackenzie, put your tuition on the fact that they will not win. All right, let's get out of here. We appreciate everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Ralph Leary, my name's Bryce Koon. This is Swarm Talk. Why are you rushing? GT Bill 190. I got family out there, my pal. I got stuff to do. It's 8:51. You want to talk about something else? Bowl game plans? Are we tailgating at a bowl game? Is that what we want to talk about? What do you want to do, man?
Why?
Well, I mean, Ralph, do you have anything to say to the people about this?
No. They played Syracuse. They should have won.
Okay, Ralph's gonna just crap on the win. It's all right. But hey, appreciate you so much. 100 people watching tonight. We appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening to this after the fact, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, make sure to give us a like, a follow, subscribe there as well. And finally, if you're listening on the radio, we are going to be on East Alabama and West Georgia with our partners over at WQEE. Get to a couple 9:51. Thanks. Maxwell says we miss you. Brennan Frazier. Yes, we are tailgating. Bedtime. Louis says, Mackenzie, we say bye, Mac, miss you. Louis says, love you, Bryce. We're trying to share that comment, Ralph. And dang, did someone check on my guy, Will? Indeed, Dr. Bob. My name is Bryce Koon, Ralph Leary in the background. We appreciate it so much. We'll be live again tomorrow night, recapping big week of college football. We'll see you next time here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.